Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Jim K. Ford Sens Nation podcast. Out of the gate, a reminder that we're putting up weekly shows on YouTube. If you want to watch our leathery mugs, talking heads in action, you can go there. Wow, what a selling point. I've really sold it now. Coming up today, a lot has happened in the 6 days since our last episode. Probably the biggest, Linus Ullmark already dinged up. Injuries already rearing their ugly heads. Sens have gone 1-2 since the season opener, since our last episode. Erik Brannstrom back in the NHL. Carter Yakam check on him. A Chuck check. Anyway, it's all still ahead today here in the program. Greg, how are you today?
I'm fine, Steve. We're recording during the day for those of you watching at home. So I had to turn the camera now so you get to see a little more of the lovely abode, because if I leave it the other way, we get the sunshine apocalypse comes glowing through on the camera. We don't like that. So that's why it looks a little different today. But
upgrading your setup, good. Upgrading your setup is on my to-do list. Get you maybe one of those green screens or something like that.
Curtains. Huh? Curtains would do it.
Curtains. That's easy. That's no problem. That's very cheap. Like I said off the top, a lot has happened in the last few days. It's been 6 days since our last episode. The Sens have gone 1-2. I think the thing that I'll remember most about the last 6 days is that insane Thanksgiving afternoon game. It might be a long time before we see a wild, crazy, insane game like that. 8-7 in overtime. That was a lot of fun, but if you're a coach or a goalie, not so much, right?
Yeah, crazy, eh? What was they scored 7 goals in 7.5 minutes or something in the middle of the second period, the two teams combined.
The two teams, yeah.
Yeah, and the power play, the special teams were special. At least one half of the special teams were special. The Senators are 27th in the league in PK, I think, but on the power play, they're doing okay. That was a wild one. Like, how many times did you think, okay, that's the last one? Okay, it's going to settle in now. Nope, another one come right back, and they just kept coming and coming and coming, goals after goal after goal after goal. So if you were a fan wanting to see some exciting hockey on a Monday afternoon, you sure got your money's worth.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think you can't take too much from it. It's one of those games, and I think about maybe the resilience angle, because the Sens had fallen behind three times, by 2-goal deficits, and then a couple more, but they kept fighting back. So I thought from that perspective, it was good, but I'd like to see a not fall behind. You know, you get a little momentum going to get back in the game, and then you let the other team score again. So I guess it's a double-edged sword, but at least at no stage. In fact, maybe save for that third period against Montreal and a 4-1 loss, I haven't seen much in the way of this team kind of letting up a little bit, feeling like it's gotten away from them. From that perspective, it's been a decent start to the season, no?
I guess so. I still
from that perspective.
From that perspective, I still want to see them play better. Like, come on. You know, it's a tired old expression in this game that you need to get secondary scoring. This team desperately needs some secondary saving, especially the LA game being prime example, evidence piece number one. It's frustrating when this team still just you need saves from the backup or the backup's backup or whoever. You know, like I try to do the math, and I'm thinking that if Ullmark is going to play 60 games, can he get 80 points out of those 60 games? If he can, then that leaves 22 games, and whoever it is probably got to get, I don't know, 10 to 12 points out of those 22 games. So if that's your goal and you want to look at this positively, then all right, without Ullmark, they're 1-1, right? So I guess that's the theme of what I'm trying to say, Steve. It's early and they're 500. Let's relax. You know, despite the things that we might be upset with so far, they're still okay. They're not out of it like in past years.
At least Forsberg gives them a chance to win in the New Jersey game. So the three games, by the way, since we last got together, was the 4-1 loss in Montreal, then the crazy 8-7 overtime win against the Los Angeles Kings on Thanksgiving, and then a 3-1 loss. We're recording this on Friday, October 18th, and on Thursday night they fell 3-1 to the New Jersey Devils. And, you know, there was kind of this perception after Forsberg's first start, after Ullmark got dinged up, that, you know, well, Forsberg's not the answer. He's never going to win a game here. We shouldn't forget the guy had a winning record on a bad team last year. Forsberg went 15-13, even though his stats weren't great. He won enough hockey games for a backup. 15 games won by your backup. That's not that bad. And so, at least in the New Jersey game, he showed he can provide enough goaltending. I didn't love the third goal,
Yeah.
but he can generally provide enough goaltending to give you a chance to win games. This just in, though, Greg, one goal near the end of the game, by the way, when the game is no longer in doubt. That's not going to be enough offense for any goalie.
Yeah, which brings us to our other problem, right? The secondary scoring. Somebody other than the top six producing some offense. And the
Yeah.
only scoring from anybody outside the top six as a forward is Shane Pinto. He's got a goal and an assist, and he is your third line center, right? At 5-on-5, he's got one goal. He's got one assist on the power play. So outside of the top six, you're having a real tough time producing any kind of offense. And
Yeah.
outside of Shabbat and Sanderson, you're really having a tough time producing any offense from your blue line. Like the blue line, Jensen's got 2 assists, I think, and the rest of the blue line just has not been there at all, producing any sort of offense. So you've kind of got problems at both ends of the ice, right? And that's a frustrating thing. It's okay if you're not going to be able to score more than 3 or 4 a night, but you can't be giving up 3 to 4 a night as well. So they've got time to work on things, a little bit of time at least, maybe a month or so. But they better have things cleared up here quick, or they're going to be out of the race again early, like in past years.
Forgive me. You included Sanderson as guys
Yeah,
who are
Shabbat and
scoring,
Sanderson.
right?
Yep, Shabbat and Sanderson.
Yeah.
They're the only two.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. So that's, that's interesting because I look at the guys that Steve Stais brought in. Yeah, you brought them in to be veterans. You brought them in to be leaders, to be mentors, to play the game the right way. So the name of the game with the free agent forwards that he signed this summer was not necessarily to go out and be a point a game player, but we're 4 games deep here now. And the big 4, you also have Adam Gaudette in there, who was signed to a 2-way deal. But the big 4 being David Perron, Noah Gregor, Nick Cousins, and who am I missing in there? And Michael Amadio. Uh, Between the 4 of them, they have 0 points.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's way too early to be concerned about it. But when you're talking in particular about Perron and Amadio, like those guys are being paid pretty well. I mean, Cousins and Gregor, they're not coming in here necessarily, to light it up or anything like that. But in all cases, though, they all got to contribute. And so it's extremely early. I'm not freaking out in the least, but this is a town where it gets late very, very quickly, and they need a good start. And so this can't continue for a whole lot longer. I think at this stage of the game, Travis Green isn't necessarily, remotely panicking about it, but he's probably starting to look at his watch a little bit. Okay, boys, it's
Mm-hmm.
about time for that secondary scoring to arrive a little bit. I know you're here for leadership, but we do need you to chip in offensively a little.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a fine line we're walking here between pessimism and optimism. It would be
Yeah.
very easy to jump all over this team and say, like, this is not good enough. They need to be better. Everyone, not just the 5 guys we're talking about, but everybody needs to be better. But at the same time, like I said earlier, they're 2-2. They've got 4 points through 4 games. Now, 82 points isn't going to get you in the playoffs, but it's a better start. Well, actually, it's not a better start. Last year was a good start, right? Last year, were they not 4-1 or even 4-0?
I think they were 3-1.
3-1. Okay, but it's still early. We need to take a deep breath and just hang on. New coach, new system. New things are happening. Let's wait for the adjustment. And I hate to say it, but the injuries play a role too. Like losing Ridley Greig hurts. Obviously, losing Linus Ullmark really hurts. Losing Zub, oh my goodness, that's bad. The Zub one really hurts because suddenly it exposes the blue line. Suddenly you have Travis Hamonic playing in your top 4, and you've got a bottom pair of Clevin and Jacob Bernard Docker playing a regular shift. Now they did okay statistically wise, analytical stats. They did okay the other night. Last night, but you can't have that every night. You get JBD and Tyler Clevin can't be playing every single game, and Travis Hamonic can't be playing every single game. Out of those 3 guys, they can't all be in the lineup every night for this team to have any kind of success.
Yeah, we're talking over an 82 game schedule.
Yeah.
A pairing can show up on any given night and be okay, but over the long haul, yeah, you need Artem Zub back. And, this is one of the things that the organization was hoping for, that they've rectified things by rebalancing the roster. They've gotten the goalie they wanted. But can we get 5 seconds? Can we stay healthy for 5 seconds here?
Mhm.
The injury bug has, they'd hope that nobody avoids the injury bug, but they had hoped that it would let up a little bit. And now it's worse than ever. You mentioned Ullmark. He's missed a second game now, and they're hoping, as the Sens get ready for their Saturday afternoon at 1 o'clock game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're hoping that Ullmark will be ready for that game. He skated with the club, full practice. I wasn't at practice today, though, but everybody was saying he looks like his normal self.
Right.
So there's a good chance he could play on Saturday afternoon, regardless. As we talked about with Josh Norris, Greg, um, I feel like whenever he's feeling 100%, give him a little more time on top of that, because the season's over if Linus Ullmark has to spend any serious time on the DL. You got to make sure that he's ready. And when you're talking, the only thing we know about that injury, right, is a strain. Because Travis Green is keeping those cards close to the vest. The most he has said, he's got a strain. Is that a groin? We all know what groin, whether you're a goalie or a skater, can mean to a hockey player. It can keep you out and nag you all season long. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping that neither side is rushing things here with Ullmark.
Yeah, and it's easy for you to say, let's rest him a little bit longer. But Anton Forsberg has not shown that he can carry the ball for any length of time. So it's a tough decision, right? Like, do we sit him out one more or maybe even two more? Do we leave him on a bench or for the weekend? That's a risky proposition considering the state of your goaltending beyond Allmark. Regardless of one win and one loss so far for Anton Forsberg. Well, it wasn't even really his win, right? It was Sogard's win. But regardless of the
Mhm.
fact that you're 1-1 without Allmark, I don't think you want to be taking the chance of letting him rest a little longer. Like, you need him and you need him to play. You need him to put up dubs in a hurry. So it's a tough, tightrope you're walking. The same sort of thing with the blue line. Like, how long do you go without Artem Zub before you have to pull the trigger and make a deal of some sorts with somebody? Right? Like, we know that the tinkering with the lineup and balancing the lineup. I'm pretty sure that if there was one regret, it was that they didn't get another defenseman over the course of the offseason. And I'm sure they're still scouring. Right now, they're probably looking around, okay, who's number 6 or 7 with whatever team in the league, who's better than our 6 or 7? I'm sure they're scouring around trying to find a defenseman. So that's probably the next roster move here beyond guys who are unhealthy getting back in the lineup. I think the next roster move that's coming is something's going to happen to that blue line because Zub's going to be out for a while. I mean, if Zub is going to be out for a while, I think the next roster move is going to be a blue line addition.
Boy, if you knew then what you know now, it was already somewhat in doubt. We were feeling pretty good that Carter Yakimchuk was going to hang around for his
Mm,
9 game audition. I feel like if they'd known Zub would get a concussion in the third game of the season, I feel pretty confident they'd have kept Yakimchuk around for those 9 games. Wouldn't he come in handy right about now?
and he's tearing it up too. Well, not tearing it up. Sorry, he's comfortably back
Point a
home
game.
in Calgary. He's playing a point a game. Yeah. Well, we all kind of shook our head when it happened, right, Steve? We were all kind of, you and I at least, were surprised by it. We both get it. We understand why he was sent back, but we were still a little surprised they didn't keep him for 9 games when you can and it's free and it's no big deal to keep an extra guy here for those first 9 games. But yeah, you're right, exactly. I hadn't even thought of that till you just said it. Yeah, in hindsight, geez, can we have that one over? Can we have a do-over there? Maybe keep the guy here because you can't get him now. The only way you can get him now is as an emergency call-up. So you really need like 3 or 4 defensemen to go down before you're even allowed to think about trying to get a junior age player up here. So they're kind of stuck with it now. They're not getting Yakimchuk. So that to me that says, yeah, Zub's out for another week or two. That says to me they're going to be scouring the waiver wire, working the phones, trying to come up with a somebody to come in here and play defense in a 6th or 7th role.
We like to do a little hindsight is 2020, but I'm trying to just even get my headspace around it. Just knowing the kind of training camp and preseason that the kid had, and knowing the state of your defense and the depth level. Like, what would have been the harm? Like, try to
Yeah.
put yourself in Steve Stalos's shoes and the management team's shoes. Are they worried the kid, will be mentally destroyed if he has a 3 or 4 bad games in the NHL. I feel like if that's the case, he's not going to amount to much anyway. I think if a kid has 3 or 4 bad games in the NHL, and that's a big if, just based on what we saw in the preseason, I feel like if he had to be sent down at that stage, he'd go down and say, okay, I got a lot to work on. Maybe it's even motivating to go
Right.
down and work on the things you need to be a good NHL player. I feel like there really wasn't any downside to keeping him around for 9 games. But if you're to go, again, get in Steve Stamkos' head, what do you think he's thinking?
Yeah, he's thinking it's the best thing for the player, and as an organization, it should be something that we kind of strive for, or that we make a quote unquote unwritten rule that we're not taking a 19-year-old here, and it just happened to be this was their first opportunity, their first challenge to make this decision, and it would play in other decisions with other 19-year-olds moving forward. And I think there's like,
Mm-hmm.
look, we're the Ottawa Senators. We believe in developing our players properly, and this is the decision we're going to make. But I say that's all well and good if you're the Florida Panthers or you're the Dallas Stars. Like, you're the Ottawa Senators, and your 5th, 6th, 7th defensemen are not that good. As a matter of fact,
Mm-hmm.
this kid was better than all of them in the preseason. You could argue that he was the best defenseman on the team through the preseason. So I think all that, the arguments of putting him back there for development purposes, that to me gets all washed out of the room when you consider your own personal team. You're this like get right down to the nuts and bolts of the nitty gritty here. And this guy was the best defenseman you had in preseason, arguably. And why not keep him? I don't
Yeah.
get it. I mean, we've had this conversation before, right here on the show, where we both agreed it's the right decision long term. But can this team really be thinking long term at this time? The eyesight, the thought, the process, the vision should be more on the month of October. To me, that was the number one priority. The month of October. What's it take for us to win the most games we can and put up the most points we can in the month of October? I don't think you can afford to take a long term projected view on a 19-year-old defenseman who could have played on your team at least for 9 games.
Yeah, I look at it like, a doctor's Hippocratic oath, do no harm. I look at it the same kind of way when you're dealing with general managers and the decisions on young players, do no harm.
Mm.
But I would ask the question, what was the harm? No, nobody was saying full season, but what was the harm of that 9 game window? I just don't think there was any downside to giving it a try
Mhm.
to see what it looked like. Maybe they just didn't want to. I mean, the kid probably was gravely disappointed to go down, to start the season with the Calgary Hitmen, particularly when you look at the attendance there. I don't know if you saw the highlights,
Oh yeah.
but man, the Calgary Hitmen playing at Saddle Dome, there couldn't have been 400 people in the stands. It was bizarre. And they announced something like, I don't know, 1,500 were at the game. Like, what is going on with junior hockey? Like, it seems like junior hockey across the board is having a tough time. The Hitmen haven't been a good team, granted, but it seems like junior hockey in general is falling victim to the insane number of other entertainment options that are out there. And I'm worried for certain markets, and Yakima Chucks in Calgary would be one of them.
Well, it's market driven. You're in the city of
Right.
Calgary, and not that it's Toronto or Montreal, but it's a major city. The
Mhm.
Red Deer wrestlers don't do as bad. The Sudbury Wolves do just fine in Little Sudbury compared to how many times the OHL tried to put a team in Toronto and it just fails and fails and fails. Ottawa's almost a blip that a city as large as Ottawa supports a major junior hockey team. It's a lot of it, almost all of it, Steve, is market driven, right? Like, how big is your market? What's the competition that you have to deal with within that market? And in cities like Calgary and Winnipeg, it's tough to draw fans when you live in a big city, a big city in the prairies, and put it in perspective. But still, it's the big city. It's not Billings, Brandon, whatever. It's not one of those smaller ones.
Right. It's still, though. I mean, there are times I'm on hockeydb.com, so I'm cheating a little bit here.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see what the attendance numbers looked like over the years. And you go back to like 20 years ago, they were drawing 10,000 people. Their attendance was 10,000 in the 04-05 season, and then it just dwindled over the course of time. Um, 3 years ago, they were at 6,000. Last year, they were at 4,500. This year's attendance, 2,500.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't know if the big city
Well,
completely
they haven't been
explains it
very
away. I'm
good
sure.
either for a while, right?
Yeah. There's no doubt.
That hurts too.
It seems like it's a common problem. But anyway, I'm getting off topic
Yeah.
here. Sorry about that.
No. Bret
Um,
Hart used to own them when they first came in, right? Bret the Hitman
right.
Hart.
Yep.
Yep. So when they first came
Right.
in, they were a novelty and they were pretty good. For a good stretch, they were pretty good too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, sorry.
Um, Now, moving back, we were talking about Carter Yakimchuk, just taking it back one step farther than that um, with Linus Ullmark. It'll be interesting to see if he takes on the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday afternoon. That would be a big boost.
Yeah.
But, to my thought about the Josh Norris thing and giving extra time, I'm
Right.
not talking about, 10 days or 10 games worth of he's being proclaimed healthy, but we're going to keep him out for 10 more days. I just don't want to get into a situation, you know, where the guy's even 95% at this stage if he's got like a groin strain or something like that.
Oh, exactly.
Get it right, make sure you're 100%, and then just, maybe a game or two. I'd be willing to wait even like 3, 4, 5 games until, I just feel like if you chance that of a recurrence of the injury and you get him back to square one, we start this process all over again. It could be the kind of thing that lingers all season long. I'm always worried when it comes to strains and sprains and things like that, soft tissue damage. I just want to make sure, the bottom line is I want to make sure that the right thing is done for the 82 games, not so much about, oh my God, we need to get off to a great start.
Yeah.
Forsberg is not anywhere near where Linus Ullmark is, but I really think that Ullmark being healthy for as many games as possible, you're going to accomplish that by making sure you take care of this
Yeah,
fully right now.
and I would think that would be the organizational approach as well here. I don't think they're going to be
Right.
taking any chances with. He's one where you can look at the long term view, and the long term view is this guy's got to be here and be healthy for this year plus another 4. I don't think they're going to be rushing him back. It'll be interesting. Tampa Bay, like uh, Kucherov's got a goal in every game they played. Right, they played 5 games. Kucherov's got like 7 goals. He's got a goal in every game like that. He's not showing signs of slowing down. Tampa as a team is not showing signs of slowing down. Like the Senators have a tough start. Like they don't exactly have any gimmies. Bring me a Buffalo or a Detroit 2 or 3 times in the first month. Bring me I don't know who else sucks. Bring me some. Let's go on a Western road trip. Let's go play San Jose and Anaheim. We need one of those trips in here. They don't really have an easy gimme 2 points or that many of them in their first 15 games. That's tough.
Yeah. Yeah, after the Tampa Bay game on Saturday, they'll be heading out on a 3-game road trip, I want to say, that
That's out
begins
west.
in Utah. Yeah, it begins in Utah. Well, I want to say the Utah somethings. Maybe
Oh, the
even
hockey
Utah
club.
Coyotes would have been fine until you figure things out. But no, they're the Utah Hockey Club. That's just the dumbest thing. UHC. All right. But it will be interesting to see. You mentioned Kucherov, 7 points, 6 points, or 6 goals and an assist, 7 points in 3 games. He's ridiculous.
A goal in every. So
But
they've played
Tampa,
3 games. Okay, they played 3 games. He's got a goal in each game. Yeah.
at
Wow.
least, yeah,
Yeah.
he's averaging 2 goals a game.
Yeah.
So 6 goals in 3, and then it'd be interesting to see what life without Steven Stamkos is like for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Jake Gensel is going to pick up some of that slack. Off to a good start with 4 assists in his first 3. But it's been Steven Stamkos' team for so long. Now in Nashville, it will be weird to see a Tampa team without their captain or their former captain.
Yeah. But like I say, they don't seem to be missing him. Like you lost Steven Stamkos, you replaced him with Jake Gensel. Oh darn. That's not exactly hurting him. Did you see his sweet little sauce feed on a 2-on-1 to where Kucherov finished it off in last night's game? Like Jake Gensel fits in there very nicely. You still got Braden Point there. You still got Hedman on the fence. You still got the big goaltender Vasilevsky's still there. Like Tampa's they're due for a drop off, but maybe not quite yet this year. Like they still don't look too bad. Some of the other shockers, though, is like you mentioned Stamkos in Nashville. They don't have a win yet. Like Colorado doesn't have a win
Right.
yet. There's a couple teams. Wow, And I think the Sens have Colorado on this trip, right? After Utah, do they not go to Colorado? You've got some teams out there that are off to some shockingly bad, poor starts. And then you've got the Buffaloes of the world, thank God, right? You can't whistle with crackers in your mouth. The sun comes up in the east and the Buffalo Sabres suck. There's certain constants in life. So they're terrible. But I'm shocked by Nashville and Colorado and Edmonton until
Yeah,
yesterday.
confirming the trip is Utah. That's coming up on Tuesday. Then Vegas on Friday. And then
Oh,
on the 27th, they close out the 3-gamer with a game in Colorado against Parker Kelly and the Colorado Avalanche, but not Erik Brannstrom, ladies and gentlemen. He was traded, of course, just at the end of training camp as the preseason came to a close to the Vancouver Canucks. They stuck him down in Abbotsford, where he had, I believe, 3 points in 2 games and was called up last night to play for the Vancouver Canucks. So he's back in the league, at least for the time being. And I think as we look at things, really, Brandstrom not a fit with the new regime in Ottawa. They obviously are going with bigger. And if you're a smaller defenseman, okay, that's fine, but we need more offense out of you. Really wasn't a fit here in Ottawa, but I'm sure you're like everybody else, glad that he's getting another NHL opportunity.
oh, hey, good for him. See what kind of numbers he produces. I will not be happy if whenever whoever is unhealthy in Vancouver returns and Brandstrom has to be placed on waivers to be returned to Abbotsford. If oh my God, if the Senators then claim him on waivers, I will not be happy when that happens. I know you're okay with it. You wouldn't mind having the little guy around again, but I don't need me some more Branny here.
No, I'm not a proponent. I don't think if you're a Stanley Cup or even a playoff team, he's necessarily your go-to option. But
Right?
currently, the go-to option in Ottawa is the likes of Tyler Klevin, Jacob Bernard-Docker, Travis Hamonic, and so in an absence of depth, and Klevin's been fine.
Yeah.
The way I feel about Klevin so far has been like, okay, he's a big body and stuff, but I haven't seen him out there murdering guys with his physicality or anything like that. The way I feel about Klevin right now is, yeah, he's fine. The same way I
Mhm.
felt about Brandstrom over the last couple of years, yeah, he's fine. So if something happens on that left side defense, what do you got after Tyler Klevin?
Mhm.
So if he's out there and, he'd be an expensive American hockey leaguer, but it would be nice to have him down ripping it up in Belleville in case you needed him along the way. So but things are pretty tight cap wise. I did want to get back before we wrap up the show as we talk about the Tampa Bay Lightning, kind of previewing that game. And you mentioned Vasilevsky. Uh, I don't know he's off to a phenomenal start. He was above average and good last year,
Yeah.
but this year in the first 3 games, he's been bananas good. Like his goals against 1.67, his save percentage 932. That is crazy good compared to last year, where his goals against was hovering near
Not good.
3. His save percentage was 900. This is Vasilevsky out of the gate, trumpeting loudly that this league does not belong to Igor Shesterkin as your slam dunk number 1 goalie in the league. Vasilevsky has something to say about that as well, and so that's part of why they've gotten off to such a good start.
Yeah, and it's making things difficult. Even the road's getting tougher for the Senators. You got to get
Yeah,
through Tampa, who are, as we've now said, just yet another reason there why Tampa is no pushover. That Western swing. How about that top line in Vegas? Speaking of the Erik Brannstrom trade, Mark Stone and his line mates with Jack Eichel there, they're just ripping it up in Vegas. Utah's doing just fine. They're probably a playoff team, I would think. Colorado, they might be the one soft spot, but because they're 0-4. But you know what? That's just perfect for the Sens to roll into town and the Avalanche to get a nice big win and get off the schneid when that game comes up. So the Senators, it's not getting easier. There's their next 4 games, and that's going to be tough sledding.
yeah. Although when you get down to it, when you're reminded about the game in Montreal, right? The Canadians are the worst team
Yeah,
in the Atlantic Division for 3 years running now, and they have a good chance to be that again. And they go into Montreal, and well, they deserve to lose that hockey game. They fell 4-1 in Montreal last Saturday, and so we can look at the schedule all we want. So that'll be a tough game. That's a tough matchup. You know what? The Sens are riding a 7-year slump as far as making the playoffs go. That's the 3rd longest in the NHL right now. They have no business taking anyone lightly. And I sometimes see it like You beat the Stanley Cup champions on opening night, and then you go into Montreal and you have a game like that.
Mhm.
I sometimes still feel like this is a team that gets ahead of itself. Sometimes it gets the standard. Don't get too high, don't get too low. I feel like they do both those things still. And I hope this is a year they would get away from that with all the veterans they brought in, guys who've won Stanley Cups before. Hopefully, and it's super early to be this negative, but hopefully that does kick in at some point. But you could certainly accuse them, I think, in those first two games of getting too high and then getting too low.
It's the Jekyll and Hyde that is and has been the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, yeah, I'd agree. Let's call it quits there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us, whether it's the audio or the YouTube version of the program. We appreciate it. Don't forget that our website is sensnationhockey.com, and one of the affiliates of the program is the Hockey News, thehockeynews.com/Ottawa. I'm the site editor over there. Hope you can check that out with all kinds of cool articles. The podcast is going to live there as well, so that's a place as well where you can find video clips and such. So thank you very much for being with us today. Greg, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you in our next episode.
Thank you, Stephen. See you.